but we have to believe that a lot of this has to do with other congestion going on inside the airport. We just heard a number of sirens. You might hear them in the background right now. A number of unmarked vehicles. Uncertain what those are. Looks all actually like a State Department motorcade coming through. It may have been some dignitary who was at the airport at the time of all this disruption. But essentially, we are seeing an airport operate almost normally. We are seeing flights go in and out. We're looking at private aircraft going in and out. Here we're seeing charter aircraft land, and a lot of airway activity, even as emergency crews prepare for this emergency landing. So again, although officials here have emergency operations underway, there seems to be a lot going on that is just plain normal airport activity. Back to you.
All right, Miriam, thanks a lot. The dignitary you were probably watching arrive is L.A. Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa. His office had issued a statement that he was heading to the airport to deal with this emergency as we're all watching it unfold. And I guess it's worth noting and worth saying at this point. I know Philip Palmer mentioned it earlier at 5 o'clock. If you are inclined to go out to LAX to try to watch this happen live, don't. You're tying up traffic. All these emergency vehicles that are heading into the area, you're getting in their way. You're getting in the way of potentially life-saving equipment. The hope is that this equipment won't be necessary. And an earlier caller that we spoke with, who is a former pilot who flew F-86s for the U.S. Air Force a long time ago, mentioned that this may not be as bad a problem as everyone is preparing for, and of course that is the hope. They of course have to prepare for the worst. We have Bill Thomas overhead in Air 7. He's been watching this unfold along with all of us for the better part of this afternoon and early evening. Where is that jet right now? It's kind of flying a little, kind of a picket line out there, is it not, Bill? Bill? Thomas?
Was somewhere over the Long Beach Harbor, somewhere between the harbor and Catalina Island at about 6,000 feet, still working on burning off as much fuel as they can. We thought earlier in the afternoon they might try to jettison some of that fuel, release some of the fuel. Last we heard, though, they were flying at a higher power setting at a lower altitude with flaps in. That'll enable them at a lower altitude to burn off as much fuel as they can, to get as light as they can, and then to execute that emergency landing here at Los Angeles International Airport here at LAX. Right off the nose here, you can see fire crews getting into position. They're coming up on the 25 left complex, which we believe is going to be closed now. And we understand in the next several minutes that JetBlue Flight 292, they're in contact with what's referred to as SoCal Approach, Southern California Approach. And that approach is going to vector them into LAX airspace. And then the tower at LAX, they'll bring them into runway 25 left here at LAX. There is still that problem with that nose gear. We don't know exactly how it's all going to pan out. It could be a very routine landing, and something could go terribly wrong. Nobody really knows right now. The flight crew doesn't know. The pilot in command doesn't know, and ground crews certainly don't know, and we here in Air 7, we don't know as well. So we're going to wait it out, watch it as it unfolds, and give you a play-by-play when they make that emergency landing here at the airport. In any event, plenty of emergency crews on the ground. LA City firefighters, paramedics. We've seen hazmat teams here. We've seen teams that spray foam on the runway. We're not sure if they're going to foam down the runway. We have seen them here on the grounds. And as you mentioned earlier, LAPD is on tactical alert. They're diverting a bunch of crews here. As you mentioned a moment ago, the mayor is on the way as well. So we'll keep the helicopter overhead. And once again, when that JetBlue makes its emergency landing here at LAX, in the next several minutes, we'll bring it to you live from the helicopter. Bill Thomas reporting live from Air 7 HD. Now, Mark and Michelle, back to you.
Okay, Bill, thanks very much. The pilots learned of this problem shortly after they took off from Burbank. They were heading for New York's JFK Airport. The plane left at 3:17, and that's when an indicator light went off in the cockpit, telling them that there was a problem with the nose landing gear. And they did a flyby of the control tower at Long Beach, and it was determined that the nose gear is turned sideways. We have on the phone with us right now Michael Barr. He is an aviation expert, safety expert with USC. Michael, how serious is this problem?
Well, you know, you really don't know until they touch down. I mean, we don't like to see an airplane land with a cocked nose wheel, and but I don't think it's an extreme emergency. Even if the nose gear fails, the aircraft will probably just kind of settle onto the nose and decelerate until it comes to a stop.
Yeah, I guess it is worth noting, too. I mean, if you're going to have one of the gear not function, it's better that it be the nose gear than one of the two main gear, right?
That's correct. I would much rather have the nose gear a problem than a right or left main gear.
Which of the landing gear typically have more problems? Is it typically the nose gear that you'd have more problems with?
In my experience, it was usually the nose gear that had more of a problem than the main gear.
Okay. So what will the pilots do as they try to bring this airplane down? What is their strategy for making as safe a landing as possible?
Well, they're going to come down at a normal descent, probably slightly slower than normal, but not to the point of stall, of course. And when they touch down, they're going to try to keep the nose off as long as they can. And they'll actually what is called fly the nose back onto the ground. They're not going to let the aircraft run out of lift and let the nose gear fall, because that would have a deep impact on the nose gear. They'll fly the nose back to the ground very softly.
Okay, and the potential here, I guess there's several things that can happen. The nose gear could snap off. It could grind itself down to nothing, or it could, the wheels could actually hit the runway and then right themselves really quickly, and then it continues on down. But as one of the people we spoke with earlier pointed out, there's no fuel in the front part of the aircraft. So even if it ends up grinding down that runway, shooting up sparks, the potential here is that everybody could get out of this thing all right.
Yes, I really don't think it's going to have a lot of fire potential, because the rescue I can see on the runway now, the rescues are really lined up with the runway. They're going to be out there within seconds. And there is no fuel. There's some combustible wiring maybe up in the nose, but nothing of any major importance.
Michael, I'm sorry. We talked a little bit at 4 o'clock about the use of foam in aircraft emergencies. Typically, it is used after an emergency landing takes place if there is a fire or if there is a crash. But typically, they will not foam the runways ahead of time, right?
That's correct. Many years ago, that was a standard practice if the nose gear didn't come down to foam the runway, and then you'd land and put the nose in the foam. But they did a study, and they found out that was actually more hazardous in case the main gear got on the foam and you lost directional control and you went off a runway.
Right, you start skidding around on that slippery foam then, right? I guess that does make sense.
That's correct.
Okay, and I had a question and I lost it a second ago, but in dealing with this now, what occurs to me, the fact that once this thing does come, it's eventually going to land, and you got to deal with the potential for panic. And what is something that is new now is that a lot of these passengers, we presume, have phones, and they're talking to people on the ground right now. It happened during 9/11, and we assume potentially it's happening right now. And people could be text messaging back and forth. These folks may be learning as much about their situation from us as they are from the pilot. What impact does that have just in terms of managing your passengers if you're a pilot?
Well, the pilot's concern right now is a safe landing. And he's leaving the flight attendants to take care of the passengers. And so they're trained to do that. They will do that. But the pilot right now, his major concern is to bring this airplane down in a safe manner.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you get on an airplane and you're getting ready to take off, part of the instructions to the passengers are to turn off your electronic devices. Do cell phones interfere with the electronics on the airplane?
The studies that they've done so far say that the cell phones themselves do have some effect, but they've never really proven how much effect.
All right. I now remember the question I was going to ask earlier, talking about, as it starts heading down the runway and whatever happens with this nose gear is going to happen, the likelihood is that the chin of this aircraft could end up being, driven down this runway. What sort of structural, how structurally rigid, how strong is this airframe to be able to handle that sort of punishment?
Well, it's pretty strong, to be honest with you, and because it's not coming in a vertical descent, really a hard drop. It's actually got a horizontal component to it, so it'll grind down a little bit, but it's up the nose area. It'll withstand with the pressures that it'll have.
Michael, how common is it to have a problem with the nose gear on an aircraft, and have you ever seen a problem like this before, where it's turned sideways?
I've never seen this problem on a airliner. I've seen it on fighters 4 or 5 times. On
fighter jets. So how does it happen? Have they determined how this sort of thing happens?
Most likely there's some sort of a material failure, a part failure, or something like that that breaks, and then when the airplane gets airborne, the nose gear just, we call it swivels, and swivels into a 90-degree position.
Mm-hmm. So you've seen this problem on fighter jets, and what were those landings like then? What happened to that nose gear? Well, the nose gear collapsed on most of them, and one of them it actually straightened out and it just went straight down the runway. On the other ones, it collapsed and the aircraft went down to its nose and went a little while, and
and the fire department came out and took care of it, and that was all that happened.
All right. Michael Barr, aviation safety expert. One last question about the safety record of this particular aircraft. And speaking in terms of mechanical failures, what do you know about it? What sort of an airframe is it?
Now, the Airbus 320, 319s are outstanding, and JetBlue, being a fairly new airline, has new jets. And I would say that I have the highest of confidence in the Airbus product.
And they're choosing runway 25 left because it's one of the longer runways at LAX?
And also, it's the other side. It's not, you got to remember, on this side is the terminal side.
Right. So why would they not want to do it on the terminal side? Just to
keep the action as far away as possible. That's one reason. Two, it may be a little wider. I don't know the exact dimensions. And so it's just probably more conservative to put them on the outside runway.
Okay, what I do know about this runway is that it is it's said to be the longest one at LAX, and that it's at some 12,000 feet, so that would certainly be helpful. The typical landing roll for something like this is how long?
Well, depending upon the speed he comes down in his weight, probably 4,000 feet on a normal landing.
Okay, and we're hearing the plane is about 8 miles out. So, Michael, can you calculate about how long it might take for this to come in for a landing?
About 160 knots, 8 miles. He's probably going to be here in about 6 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
That's assuming he's on approach right now. We have our Philip Palmer at the 18 miles out. All right, we'll have to do our math again. While you're doing the math there, Mr. Barr, we're going to check in with Philip Palmer. He is live now at our assignment desk with some more information for us. Philip?
Right, Mark and Michelle. Basically, what they've been doing here is they're actually able to monitor the traffic between JetBlue maintenance and the pilot. And so by listening in to a lot of this, they've been able to get a pretty good idea as to what's going on inside of the plane. We're hearing that the most recent conversation was that maintenance is now just going to stand by. They're waiting on the pilot should he need anything. He is just taking the approach at this point. So they're still standing by. But interestingly enough, as we were listening in, the pilot was said to be very calm, very casual. The last communication they had was he's just going to make sure that everything inside of the plane is stabilized in the sense that they want to make sure that the passengers are ready for the landing, make sure that everybody is calm and ready to go. We were also told that one of the concerns for the pilot, a bit of levity in the sense, was how will they handle the media. They know that this is going to be quite the event, so the pilot was asking about how they will handle the media. But, Mark and Michelle, as we send it back to you, we'll continue to listen to hear. But, again, the pilot at last check, very calm, almost casual, we're told, as he was talking with maintenance crews to try and repair the problem. But now there hasn't been anything spoken over the last couple of minutes because they are focusing on their potential landing. Back to you in the studio.
Okay, Philip Palmer, thanks very much. We're going to go back out now to Bill Thomas, who is following this plane from Air 7. Bill, we understand this plane is now on final approach. Is that what you're gathering too from what you're seeing in the cockpit?
Absolutely, yeah. SoCal approach, they have handed off JetBlue Flight 292 to LAX. They're making that approach here in the next 3 or 4 minutes. Right now, he looks to be about 12 miles out. Might be kind of difficult to see the aircraft from our position. We're right on top of Los Angeles International Airport. Looks to be about 12, maybe 13 miles to the east. He's roughly crossing the 110 right now and right by the, make that the 710 near the 105. So he should be landing in about 5, maybe 8 minutes right in there. And we will keep the helicopter overhead. We'll describe for you minute by minute what he's doing as he makes that final approach. In the meantime, as we watch him gingerly make his way over here to LAX, we will remind you this is an emergency landing. We don't know exactly what's going to happen once he touches down on the runway, what's going to happen without malfunctioning nose gear, but we're going to watch it play by play and describe for you everything that happens. Briefly, just to recap, this is a JetBlue Airbus A320 built in 2002. It's been in service now for about 3, almost 4 years right now. It took off out of Burbank just after 3 this afternoon en route to JFK to New York. And right after departure, we understand they noticed some kind of a problem with the main gear, the nose gear. So what they did is declared an emergency. They were vectored over to the Long Beach Airport. They made a low flyby over Long Beach Airport. And again, now you can see the aircraft coming in. They made made a low flyby over the Long Beach airport. The guys in the tower, they got close enough. The guys in the tower could actually see the problem with the nose gear. They did confirm there was a problem. At that point, the pilot in command, the flight crew, they initiated what's called a go-around. They aborted their landing. They took off again. They went back to SoCal approach. They were vectored over the shoreline. And for the past couple hours now, they've been burning off as much fuel as they can. It's estimated they probably had about 30,000 pounds of fuel on board that aircraft when it took off. Much of the fuel is loaded in the left and the right wing. So as you heard earlier, even when they land, if that nose gear does collapse, there's no fuel at the nose of the aircraft. Most of the fuel is stored left and right wings. Sometimes there's a center tank as well, unclear on the Airbus, the A320. But they did declare an emergency, and they will be landing here at the Los Angeles airport in just a few minutes now. It looks like they're about 7, maybe 8 miles out now. This is the final approach. And while you keep your eyes on that airplane, we can tell you on the ground right now, dozens and dozens of firefighters, LA City fire crews, LA County fire crews as well. Hazmat teams are here. The bomb squad even showed up. There are a number of rescue helicopters here as well. LA County Sheriff's Air Rescue 5, just in case this does turn into an incident or an accident. If there is any trauma patients on board the aircraft, they will be able to be airlifted to a trauma center as quickly as possible. 2 and maybe 3 rescue helicopters on the ground here at LAX. So now we're on about a 3-mile final, it looks like. So they'll be landing in just about maybe about 3 minutes out is what they're saying, about 3 minutes out. So just a few miles out from landing here at Los Angeles International Airport. And to recap, it's that main nose gear. There are 3 types of gear on the airplane, the left and right gear, and then the third gear is the nose gear. As you can see from that picture, we're zoomed in as tight as we can using Air 7 HD. It might be hard to see, but perhaps you can see where the nose gear is actually tilted or canted 90 degrees to the left. And that's the main problem right now. They haven't been able to fix that on board that aircraft. They've run through all their emergency procedures in the pilot's operating handbook. It's required to be in the aircraft at all times. And all these pilots and the co-pilots, the flight crew, they plan for each of these contingencies, all kinds of emergency landings year-round. They have biennial flight reviews, and they're prepared for every possible contingency. So landing here in about 2, maybe 2.5 minutes, getting closer and closer.
Yeah, we're watching this high-definition picture, Bill, and we can see actually from our location with that high-definition camera that you can even see from here that the wheel is still cocked there, still not pointing in the right direction. The pilot is bringing that plane in for a landing now. This JetBlue Flight 292, 140 passengers, 6 crew members on board, coming in now on final approach to LAX, and we will watch this all unfold live here. What is hoped for, the best possible scenario, is that the thing straightens out and it just lands normally on the runway. Or it could end up with the nose skidding down that 12,000-foot runway at LAX. But there is so much equipment there, Michelle. They've got the cavalry out there, it seems like. They've got it covered from the air, from the ground. They've got fire trucks, ambulances, and we should also note there are buses ready to transport the passengers back to the terminal. So they are anticipating and hoping that none of the emergency equipment will be needed and that they'll be using the buses a lot more than they'll be using the emergency gear. Let's watch this thing go.
And they've got their weather working in their favor, too. At this time yesterday, there were still some thunder showers in the area showing up on our live Doppler 7000. But today, nice, clear conditions for this plane to come in and make this, emergency landing. This Airbus A320 JetBlue coming in now with 146 people on board. That's 140 passengers and 6 crew members, a pilot and a co-pilot up front.
All right, we are watching it now, and it's coming in low and presumably slow now. It's probably crossing the 405 and approaching Sepulveda Boulevard and ultimately the airport. That's runway 25 left. That was the 405 freeway right there. We're getting close.
25 left, as Mark pointed out, the longest runway at LAX, the one they want to use for emergency landings if they can. And here it comes in now, this JetBlue Flight 292 with that front nose gear pointed sideways.
Hold the nose.
Seen a lot of smoke, but so far it's still intact. The landing gear.
He's now slowing down as best he can.
End of the runway.
Mighty strong landing gear here. That's the tires burning out there.
All right.
best of all possible scenarios, it did not collapse. The chin gear, or the chin of that aircraft did not skid down the runway. It has come to a complete stop. They will now have to evacuate the passengers off that aircraft, but they're doing it with the nose gear still in place, albeit with the tires burned away and gone, but you can see no indications of any fire on board this aircraft. It appears that this has all come to a very safe conclusion. We can guess now that the emergency equipment is heading in that direction. Bill Thomas in Air 7, what are you seeing?
Absolutely. Emergency crews are in position now. They are approaching the aircraft. You just saw them execute that soft field landing. Land as slow as you can without stalling the aircraft. They brought the nose down very gently at the end of the runway. They used up about 95% of the runway. And in just moments now, what you'll see is the emergency doors opening up, and everybody will use the emergency chutes at the direction of the stewardesses and stewards, the flight attendants. You can see the on the left side of that JetBlue flight 292, 1, 2, and 3 doors there. They'll be opening any moment now. They will deploy the emergency chutes, and then one by one, each of those passengers will be deplaned. If anybody was injured during the landing, that's unclear right now. But if they were injured during that landing, there are fire crews and paramedics standing by to take care of everybody. There are 3 rescue helicopters on the ground here at LAX as well. If anybody had to be airlifted to a trauma center nearby, that would be out there ready in just a matter of moments. So in just seconds here, you'll see everybody being deplaned using the emergency chutes. Unclear as to why they haven't opened up the emergency exits just yet, but again, in just moments, they'll be doing that. The JetBlue makes a safe landing. No reports of any injuries, and they used up, as we said, about 95% of that runway. If they'd gone just another quarter, maybe a half a mile, they would have actually gone off the runway and landed into the dirt at the end of the runway. Mark and Michelle.
Bill, do you suppose there's a chance they might bring one of those portable staircases over to get people off that way instead of using the chutes? Because oftentimes people do get injured when they exit the aircraft on those slides. You know, you hear a lot of reports about people breaking ankles, twisting ankles, getting bumps and bruises from flying down those chutes. Perhaps they'll use the stairs instead?
Entirely possible. They could bring out kind of a portable jetway where they'll come right up to the aircraft, open the doors that way, and then bring people down that way. First, I would imagine that the flight crew, the pilot and the co-pilot, they would have to indicate to ground crews that the emergency chutes aren't necessary. There might be some activity on the right side of the airplane if we can tilt up just a little bit. Yeah, we do see some fire crews on the right side. So in just moments, either via emergency chutes or some portable equipment, everybody will be deplaned here in just a matter of moments.
It's interesting that it says LA City Fire Department on that stairway that they are using. So I was unaware that LA City Fire had their own evacuation sort of equipment, but I guess it makes sense that they would have that out at the airport to help get people off a plane just as quickly as possible. But you can certainly tell by the body language of everybody involved, at least on the ground, the emergency responders, that they're not too worried about this thing being a problem. And you can bet a big sigh of relief went up inside that aircraft when it came to a complete stop with no problems. We saw the fire as the wheels burned away, but that gear, the metal portion of the gear stayed intact, did not collapse, a testament to the strength of the construction of this aircraft and its components, although they're going to really have to look at how this thing all happened in the first place.
Probably a big sigh of relief also from family members of those people and friends of the people on board who may have been watching on television. A lot of people had noticed that this was going on. We've been following it since about 3:45, 4 o'clock this afternoon.
Yeah.
It happened during the 4 o'clock news that we got wind of this and started broadcasting it as breaking news during the 4 o'clock. So for the last 2 hours, if you know, friends or family got a phone call that this was happening, they had time to tune in and see what was going on. So you can bet that a lot of them were watching it on TV, as we were as well, and everyone's feeling pretty relieved right now.
I got to tell you, when we first went to this, when we first saw this, when it was making that low pass, that was pretty frightening. Seeing the gear pointing in the wrong direction. You knew then that we really had a genuine emergency. We hear a lot about, you know, planes with gear problems coming in. It's almost always just a light that's malfunctioning or a flat tire or something to that effect, and they always land safely. This was a different sort of emergency that had been declared. And now, somebody waving from the door of the aircraft. Always a good sign. Everybody gets to walk away from this one.
And the window is open in the cockpit as well. The pilot was communicating with, or the co-pilot communicating with some of the folks on the ground there. And so everything is okay here out at LAX. About 3 hours ago that the flight took off from Burbank, 3:17 p.m. It was headed for New York's JFK Airport. But then shortly after they took off, the indicator light went off.
Yes,
and
copy
the
that.
pilots knew that they had a problem. They flew by the tower at Long Beach Airport and learned that that front nose gear was pointed sideways. Here now comes that staircase, and so the passengers and the crew will be able to get off this plane shortly. They will not have to use the emergency slides, which is a good thing.
And they get to use the buses and not the fire trucks, which of all the vehicles that are out there, those are the ones you want to use after an emergency like this. And folks, we imagine very shortly and in a very orderly fashion will leave the aircraft and I presume thank the pilot and the flight crew on their way out for the magnificent job they did. This pilot laid that thing on the runway, just kissed it right on down. It was it was as if the wheels were pointing in the right direction. You know, when looking at how smoothly this all went. If you didn't know, obviously, about that big problem, you might not have known it. I don't know how it must have felt in the plane. I bet it was vibrating pretty hard, but they're all safe now.
Well, and those passengers on board, they had a long time to contemplate how this thing was going to turn out, or could have turned out, I should say. You know, 3 hours from the time they took off to the time they made this emergency landing. It must have just been a terrifying experience for them. But thankfully, everything turned out okay. We can see the emergency responders are now ready to get on that plane and talk to some of the folks on board. We anticipate the passengers and the crew will be getting off shortly. This is on runway 25 left. As Mark pointed out, it's the longest runway at LAX, the best runway for an emergency landing because of its length. And a lot of emergency vehicles on the scene. LA City Fire is there, hazmat crews, you name it, in terms of emergency response. We're seeing it there tonight. About 20 extra LAPD units were called out. And we're also told that the mayor is on the scene as well.
I guess he gets to greet everybody now that they get off the plane. Not sure if he's going to be sticking around, but he did respond. And, you know, the fact that this was played out over some 3 hours, it really was a luxury for the emergency responders. They were able to coordinate to figure out how many units, how much resources to send to this, where everyone would be deployed. Hospitals in the area, we presume, were alerted to the possibility of incoming casualties, none of which was needed. Here's a view from the ground. This is from our crew that's with Miriam Hernandez out there. And here's the view. Look at that. That is amazing, watching this thing come in.
Yeah.
But again, the only fire associated with this is the tires and portions of the gear burning away.
Yeah, this is the first time we're seeing this shot, a very close-up look at that nose gear as it was ground away by the friction and the flames. And it looks like there's still actually some some rubber left on the wheel.
Yeah, pretty durable. And an amazing display of skill by the pilot and an amazing display of the construction and the design of this aircraft, this Airbus A320. This one was built back in 2002. It's a very young aircraft, and it is showing that, you know, the aircraft design has come a long way over the years, and they build in all sorts of strengths and things to maintain these things and make sure that the best possible outcome takes place. And it seems to work, and now you're seeing the first few passengers coming on.
Yes, we saw the buses pull up just a moment ago, and they'll be loading into those buses, and we'll probably be waiting a little bit at the airport to get their bags. A lot of them are probably from here in Southern California, so they'll probably just be going home. Others might be from the New York area. But at least, you know, if this had to happen, they didn't make an emergency landing in Dallas. It's for many people, it's their hometown.
Right, right. And some of them will be going on to New York, and we presume JetBlue will maybe give them a free flight.
What do you think?
Let's hope.
I think
but
they earned it, huh?
Yeah, the best possible outcome. You can only imagine what it's been like for those folks dealing with this situation, and what they're learning from, what they had to learn from the pilots and the flight crew, and bracing for the possible impact. I mean, they put you in the brace position right before they land, and so you're praying, you're thinking about your loved ones. All sorts of things have to be going through your mind, and then it's all over.
Well, we have several crews out there at the airport at LAX, and we anticipate for Eyewitness News at 11 that we will be hearing from some of these passengers about their experience today. We hope to learn a little bit more about what happened to that plane and perhaps why that landing gear got stuck the way it did. That will be coming up tonight on Eyewitness News at 11 o'clock.
Very busy day here. A lot of breaking news. The biggest breaking news story we have dealt with here in Los Angeles in a very long time, but it ended very happily. 140 passengers, 6 crew members walking away from this emergency landing of JetBlue Flight 292. We'll have more tonight on Eyewitness News at 11. Mark Brown and Michelle Tuzzi. We'll see you then.